Hey everybody, welcome back for another video. Today I'm going to talk to you about vacation reads. My husband and I recently got back from an all-inclusive resort vacation to Huatulco, Mexico. We went to a secrets resort and we had an absolutely amazing time. It exceeded our expectations and we are very happy with our choice. It is difficult to narrow down where to go when you want to do one of these all-inclusive resort vacations, because there are so many amazing options. But we really wanted to go somewhere different. We visit Florida every year and we absolutely love the Gulf Coast. We love the white sand. We love that crystal clear, perfect water. We love the area. We love everything about it. And when we started looking into Mexico, we found that as incredible as they are, a lot of the places that are really popular to visit, like Puerto Vallarta, Cancun, Riviera Maya, all those types of places are so beautiful and so fun and so amazing. But as far as the vibe goes, it looks a lot like the beaches that we frequent already. And so I wanted to go somewhere very, very different. I wanted to go to Mexico. And it's funny, our little concierge guy that helped us plan our whole trip and was so helpful once we got there, he said, those places are amazing, but that's Disney Mexico. I wanted to go to Mexico. And sure enough, I got all of the full immersion culture, all of that I wanted. And in fact, he said, this is where Mexicans go to vacation. And sure enough, he was accurate. I would say 90% of the guests at least were Mexican residents. And so we were fully immersed in Mexican culture. And as someone who speaks almost zero Spanish, it was interesting, but we managed to communicate and have a great time despite the language barrier. We had such a great time. So anyway, if you have any questions about secrets resorts or the location that we visited, just reach out. I'd love to talk to you about it. Like I said, we had such a good experience. There were so many things to do during the day. They had lots of activities available, like beach volleyball and water bingo and karaoke and kayaking and all this fun stuff. But I will say we spent, I would say 75% of our time at the incredible infinity pools with the swim up bar, and we sat in our lawn chairs. I call them lawn chairs. What do they call them on the beach? Loungers? I don't know. We sat in our very comfortable loungers under the umbrella and read books. So that may not be very surprising coming from me because I'm a reader. That's what I do. But I was a little surprised at how much time I actually did get to spend reading, and I was very pleased with that. But my husband is not necessarily a reader, and he actually finished 3 books while we were there. So I'm going to go over kind of my thought process when I was planning my reads for vacation, and just go over what we actually ended up reading and just kind of show you what I picked for him as a non-reader and his thoughts on that and that kind of stuff. I could not get him to agree to come on camera and be part of this video with me, so I'll speak for him. So first of all, I definitely overthought the whole idea, like vacation reads. It has to be something different. It has to be out of the ordinary. I wanted to read something that was like beachy, but didn't necessarily take place on a beach. And I wanted to read something that was like out of my comfort zone, but not so far pushing it that, you know, it would be hard for me to get into. And I wanted to read standalones, but I wanted to read something that had some depth. Like I was overthinking it to the max. But don't feel bad for me because that's part of my process, and I actually like that. I like thinking about the books I'm going to read and talking about it and making lists and narrowing it down. I like that part of it almost as much as I like the reading. And so I had fun planning for vacation, but I definitely did the book equivalent to overpacking. Like I made it way too complicated. So I reached out to a lot of readers that I know who are very avid readers, who have great tastes, but who don't necessarily read within my genre. And I got some recommendations. The funny thing is I didn't read any of these books on vacation, but I want to show you what got recommended to me, because if you're going on vacation and you're kind of looking for the same, you know, step outside your comfort zone or something that just feels different, these books were consistently recommended to me by people who I know have really good taste and read a lot of books, but they don't read fantasy. This one was recommended to me by my mom. It is called The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and it's written by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I feel silly even showing you these because I didn't read them, you guys. But the way they were sold to me and the fact that I already own them and have them, I do think I'm going to read them. So this one was recommended to me by my mom. This one was recommended to me by my friend Tracy. It's called The Nest, and I think it's about some rich kids who get like an inheritance or something, and it's kind of like a comedy family drama. Don't come at me if that's not what this book is about. That's just kind of the gist I got. But again, it's short. I read the back of it. It sounds really entertaining and funny. I do imagine I will read all of these. So if you have read these and you'll think I like them, I want you to go in the comments and let me know, because if I own these books, I definitely want to read them. Now, this one is one that everyone knows because it's been made into a movie and it's very, very popular, made popular by Reese Witherspoon and her book club. I still haven't read Where the Crawdads Sing, and I know I want to read this book, but I'm going to be honest, this is why I didn't read it. I didn't read it because this feels like a book that people who don't read would read. Like your person who only reads one book a year and they read it on vacation, this is, to me, this seems like the type of book that that person would read. And so I was like, I don't want to go on vacation and be reading this book and everyone be like, oh, she probably doesn't read books. Like, I'm sick. This is how my mind works. I was worried about complete strangers I will never see again, possibly, but probably not, judging my books based on the cover. Anyway, I'm going to read it. Someone drop into the comments right now and tell me all the reasons I need to read that book, because I've heard consistently from everyone who's read it that it's awesome. So this is another one recommended by my mom. She doesn't have the book jacket on because she is a monster and she takes her books to the pool. She takes her books with her everywhere, and she just kind of gets rid of the dust jackets and doesn't treat them quite the same way I do, but she is an avid book reader. I owe all of my love of books and, you know, how high I prioritize reading and all that. I owe it all to my mother. She is amazing. She gave me this book. It's called Damnation Spring. It's by Ash Davidson. I don't know anything about it except for she just like, you have to read this. You're going to love it. And I'll be honest, every time my mom has like aggressively recommended a book to me, it's always gone well. She knows me. She knows what I like. We don't line up a lot on our reading, but she also doesn't recommend stuff to me that she doesn't think I would like. So this came from her. I am definitely going to read it, but I did not read any of that on vacation. So I put all that effort into like asking around, getting these recommendations, cross-referencing, reading, you know, little blurbs to make sure they sounded good, acquiring the books, and then I did not read one of them. So what I ended up reading on this particular vacation, I started out with a Game of Thrones, and I took this ratty, battered, beloved copy with me. And the first day we get there, well, not the first day we got there, but the first full day of our vacation, I took it down to the beach and I'm reading it, and it's so humid and there's so much moisture in the air, you know, it's fresh salt air, you know, like you're at the ocean, of course it's going to be moisture. And immediately I felt like my book was starting to like shrivel up and get moist. And then I left it on my little table by my chair, and the wind caught it, and a couple of pages went flying down the beach. So I ran after him and got him, and I stuck him back in the right place, and I was like, okay, this is enough risk taking with my books. So I kept this one in our room. And in the evenings, I like to read on our balcony. We had a beautiful ocean front view on our balcony. And so I did finish this, and it's as good as I remember. It's my favorite book. And let me tell you, there's just something really special about reading your favorite book of all time while you're on vacation. I don't know why I put so much effort into coming up with something that was new to me, when really there's nothing more fun and comfortable than rereading your favorite book on vacation. Because if I did get distracted, or I had to put it down, or the waiter came by, to ask me if I needed a refill of my pina colada, I wasn't like, wait a second, where was I? Let me find my spot. I already know this story. I wasn't trying to absorb a ton of new world building or a ton of new characters or anything like that, because I know this book like the back of my hand. And so after I got into it, I was like, of course a reread is a perfect idea for a vacation read. So tip number one, maybe consider a reread on vacation. The next book I started and finished while I was on vacation was Savage Son by Jack Carr. And this is book 3 of the Terminal List series. And I think a thriller is a great idea for vacation because, once again, these books are generally set in modern times and they are in cities that we are familiar with. So you're not having to learn a bunch of new, kingdoms and provinces and lands and these made up words and these, all these characters and different POVs. Like, this is a very straightforward writing style. And while it does have a lot of things I love in it, like rich character work and super plot heavy, a lot of action, it's fast paced and it keeps you going. So it's very, unputdownable. And that's great for when you're sitting by the pool, because you don't want something that's hard to keep your attention when there are so many distractions around, because it is easy to just put the book down and just go wait around for a while, wait around with the pool, swim up to the swimming bar. This is a book that will keep your attention. So if that's what you're wanting to do, you want to sit there and you want to blaze through a book and just really get into it, a thriller is a great choice because it really captures your attention and it reads quickly. And then I read 2 other things, and again, I don't know why I didn't think of this, because of course a perfect thing to read on vacation would be short stories or novellas. So I read The Law, which is by Jim Butcher, and it is a Dresden File novella. I don't know if we're calling it a short story or a novella, but either way, it was very short. And it was so fun to get back into a world that I was already familiar with characters that I already know, with a writing style that I'm familiar with, and it was a short, fast-paced, compact story. I love the idea of, getting through a couple novellas while you're on vacation. And I also read The Warlord of Mars. This is book 3 of the John Carter Barsoom series. And again, it's short, it's so fast-paced, action-packed. There's not a lot of fluff there. The writing style is very direct, very straightforward. And so, again, it's easy to stay focused. And because it's so action-packed, and because it's a book 3 and I already am very familiar with the world and the different fantasy races and different types of aliens and who the enemies are, it was very easy to jump in and be fully immersed. Also, I very highly recommend bringing a Kindle with you on vacation, because I didn't plan on reading those, but I just already had them loaded in my Kindle. And so when my mood would change, because I even read a couple of chapters of Treasure Island. I have all of this already on here, and it was perfect to go, well, what am I in the mood for? And just have it completely available in my Kindle library. Also, the pages can't blow away down the beach. If it gets a little moisture, a little splash, I would not recommend, dunking it in the pool or the ocean, clearly, but it does have some water resistance, so there's not the same fear factor of your book getting ruined. But also the Paperwhite is just so nice because it doesn't have that glare with the eye strain. You're sitting in the sun, and maybe a phone or a tablet wouldn't read quite as nicely as the Paperwhite. So definitely recommend bringing your Kindle with you on vacation. Now, as far as my husband goes, he probably does read more than the average American, I would guess. I'd have to look up some numbers and find out. But in the end, reading is not his main hobby, and he doesn't read a ton, but he knew that he wanted to read while we were on vacation. And so he asked me just to pick him some books. And that's a huge, it was fun, but that's a lot of pressure. So what I did was I picked a dozen books that I knew he'd like those. Not big commitments. He's not huge into fantasy, so I didn't want to pick something that was a book 1 of this giant series. I didn't want to pick something that he might think was cheesy or out there, because in the end, we just don't have a lot of crossover when it comes to our taste in books. But luckily, over the last year or 2, I have been branching out and trying stuff outside of my fantasy genre, so I was able to make some recommendations for him that he really liked. So I worked really hard. I put together these dozen books, and I was like, okay, let's sit on the couch and let me give you a pitch for each one. And he didn't want to hear it. He did not want to hear my elevator pitch. And I was like, okay, well, let me give you a 1-sentence spiel. He didn't want to hear any of it. He wanted me to pick for him. Again, a lot of pressure. So what I did was I first looked at my stack and thought, what books will I not be devastated if he ruins them? Because like my mom, he doesn't have quite the same standards for gently taking care of his books. And we're going to be on the beach, we're going to be at the pool. I can't get mad if they get a little wet. So what I did was I picked books that I knew he would love, but also books that I wouldn't be heartbroken if they came back from Mexico like a little damaged. And they did. They all came back damaged. So I picked Savage Son for him. We both read this on vacation. I picked this for him because, first of all, I know thrillers, especially military stuff, is always going to be a big hit for him. But he's already read books 1 and 2. He really is a fan of Jack Carr. He loves this James Reese character. And so I knew right away that this would be a slam dunk for him. And it was. He loved it. But as you can see, our copy is very tattered right now. I didn't do that. He did. But the other 2 books, The Terminal List and what's the second one called? True Believer. I have hardcover copies of those. And as I continue purchasing the series, I want to get them all in hardcover. And so I knew already that I was going to be replacing this mass market paperback with a hardcover. So I let him take this one to the beach because I wouldn't be upset if he ruined it. And look at it. Ooh, it is rough. I also picked for him one of my favorite books, A Man Called Uva by Frederick Backman. And again, he loved this book. But again, I don't know who would read this book and not love it. I just think it's such a wonderful story that it's an easy recommendation to make for anybody, no matter what type of books they say they like, no matter if they read 1 book a year or 100 books a year. Like, I think this is a book that anyone would like. And I picked this one for him because I already have a very nice hardcover copy of it. But anytime I find this book at a used bookstore and it's under like $5, I always pick up a copy so I can recommend it to people and give it away. And sometimes they return it to me, but even if they return it to me and it's damaged, I'm not going to be upset because I have a nice one that's for me only. Or if they don't return it and they keep it themselves, because that happens when you loan stuff out. Again, no harm, no foul. I'm glad they read it. I'm just glad they read it. So I let him take this because I knew I had a backup copy. And he was very hard on it. It was not quite this beat up before he took it, but I'm happy he read it because he loved it, and it is one of my favorite books. And there's just nothing more fun than sharing something you love with someone you love. When I bought this copy, there was a clipped article in there about Frederick Backman. So I thought that was kind of cool, and I keep that in there as a bookmark. And then the last thing he read, based on my recommendations, was Pines by Blake Crouch. And this is book 1 of a trilogy. And I loved this trilogy. It's like part sci-fi, part thriller, part like mystery. It's such a ride. Like, this is a mind twist ride. And it took him a while to get into it. He was probably 30% in, and he was just like, I'm not sure how I feel about it. And I was like, keep going, you're gonna like it. And sure enough, he finished it like the day before we left, and he was like, do you have the next book? Like, he was ready to keep going. So he already started on Wayward, which is book 2, and I think he's gonna keep going with those. So I'm really happy with my recommendations because they worked for him. He enjoyed the books. He read them all. He was very rough on them. I mean, how? Why? Like, that's... Anyway, but the reason I chose this for him was not only because I knew he would like it, but because this is a show tie-in edition. And my other 2, because like I said, it's a trilogy. So the book Wayward, and then I think the 3rd book is called like The Last Town or something. Those books match each other. They are not show tie-in editions, and they match. And so I was like, if he ruins this book, which he did, that'll be a perfect excuse for me to buy myself a new copy of Pines that matches the other 2 books. So win-win. He read the book, he loved it, and now I have an excuse to buy myself a prettier copy of a book I love. So that's what we read on vacation, you guys. I'm not very good at this whole video editing thing, so hopefully I can throw up a couple of pictures in this video and you can get an idea of what we did, what the resort looked like, and what kind of a great time we had. But guys, we had our 14th anniversary. It was special. It was a fun trip, and we just absolutely cannot wait to go back. So check out the Secrets Resort in Huatulco, Mexico, and thank you for watching my video.